Metroid Construction Podcast, Episode 1.
I guess to get everything started, we'll just introduce everyone. So I guess we'll just start in alphabetical order. So why don't you go ahead and start, bro?
Or you're going by
DSO, you're alphabetically first.
Okay, because I don't see myself on the list, so that throws me all kinds of off.
All right.
Well, I figured DSO, then Grime, then MST, myself, and then Squish.
Yeah.
Alright.
All right. Hello, this is DSO.
That it?
I don't know.
I'm just going to say I was Grime and leave it at that. Which I just did.
And I'm MetroidMst.
And Person 701's here, and this is already going horribly.
It's about as well as can be expected.
And I'm Squishy Chigo. Hello, kitties.
I knew you were going to throw that in there.
Anyway, I guess we should actually, talk about things.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
good.
think.
Go straight down the list, or just hit random topics?
Well, why don't we just go ahead and start at the very top then?
I guess the first one is talking about item progressions and hacks, and like what item progressions you like.
So why don't you start us off with that, since that was your list topic, bro? Or DSO, I guess I should say.
So Squishy will be not happy to hear it, but one of the things that bothered me about Pantheon was I did not like collecting Morph Ball what felt like so late.
It wasn't that late.
If I can't roll around in Mock Ball and whatnot, it just feels wrong to me. It feels like I feel paraplegic or whatever they call it. Like,
I suddenly have this image of a paraplegic Samus.
Oh, this is going well.
I don't know, I've seen some pretty interesting applications of that. I've seen it where, I think one of the oldest hacks, I think it was made by a guy called Crockemeyer. It was like power bombs was the first thing you got and all that, and it was...
I don't typically mind the a little bit of a change. Unusual is not bad either, so long as it's done right, like where you don't where stuff is either ridiculously hidden or that's not really progression, but or just like if anything seems like way out of place, like high jump at like the end of the game where it doesn't really have much use anymore.
It's one thing to put it in way later on if you can get to it earlier or something, if you can wall jump really well or something.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I was gonna say, I don't remember which hack it was. I think it was Limit, but the choice between super missiles and power bombs.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the more interesting ideas, especially since that was a pretty early hack. You would get the other one later, but your path was decided by which one you picked.
I had been working on an idea where there was 3, 4, maybe more paths that you could choose from, depending on like how difficult you wanted the run to be, and the item progression was different for each one. That never got very far though.
It's hard to get anything going anymore, especially non-linearity. I find that really, really difficult to plan out.
Every little thing, like the people who are playing who can't wall jump at all to the people who can do it with frame precision, you have to take everything into account.
Yeah.
Not just that, but non-linearity is mostly left up to the level design, if you've noticed.
My approach to that in the new Angry Fire Chozo is I have it sort of modularized where I have certain lists of items, and you have to go through like the whole list before you can get on to the next, but anything that's within that list, you can go for at any time. Like once you get to that point, all those items are open to you. You can go several routes that way without having to be forced to get this item, and then you have to get high jump, and then you have to get supers or whatever. I mean, you have a little bit of flexibility without it being completely open.
So it's basically once you have all these items, you can continue on to the next portion of the game. All right, yeah, makes
That's
sense.
pretty cool.
Because the hack is going to be huge, and I'm trying to pace it out so that people can just keep exploring and finding stuff without ending up getting stuck. No, I tried to design the hack so you kind of loop around on yourself a bit.
That was one of the things that people liked a lot about Pantheon was the circularness of it.
I mean, backtracking has its place. Like, if you come back later on and you've got a whole bunch of other crap, but...
One thing I will say I completely dislike is when you get just regular plain bombs late.
I did that in Pantheon too.
Yeah, I know. It was done in Pantheon, the Phazon hack does it. that is an item I expect to have to help me explore throughout the whole hack. And so when I get it late, I'm whatever. I don't want to go back and explore everything again.
I tell you one thing that gets me about, I mean, I see it a lot in people that just start up their first hack or whatnot where they don't consider the 2-tile gap. I think that's the quickest way to get me to stop playing a hack is, start off at the ship. Hey, cool, this looks pretty neat, there I'm stuck,
Oh, no.
As far as item progression goes, though, I'm curious to see how things will start changing in the future as custom items become more common. I don't know. Are there any, other than Boost Ball, are there any hacks with any other custom items?
I've got a few on the way for Super Metroid Prime, but that's far off in the distance, so I wouldn't worry about it.
I think Jam made the long beam. And some kind of charge item, I think, that heals you, or that might have been somebody else.
Black Falcon also made the Havoc Beam, which is a beam that bounces off walls.
I guess the B part to this question, do you prefer linear or non-linear progressions?
I think, as a whole, since a lot of people really disliked Fusion because the majority of the other Metroid games are really non-linear, I think non-linear is the way to go, in my opinion. It adds a lot of openness to the world.
I mean, I think there should be, like, a linear path that you follow, something to guide you through the game for the first time. But
pretty much like the original.
Yeah, because the original has a progression, but you can also break that to pieces. Although I will say that is also very hard to accomplish.
But if I had to choose just strictly between the two, linear or non-linear, probably I would probably say linear, as weird as that sounds, because I mean you can make a linear game that's really fun. It's just
you can.
I think the thing with Fusion that a lot of people hated about it was all the dialogue and the cutscenes and go here and do
that's
this.
true.
And it told you where to go.
Yeah, but if it's like a real strict linear path, but it's just figure it out on your own and have fun, I can get into that a lot more.
Yeah.
On that logic, I guess, if we're going by that, I would say I'm more of a non-linear kind of person.
The thing that I don't like about linear is when it shoehorns you into going a certain path. And, there's other paths that you can see, but every time you start going down one, you find an obstacle in the way, and it feels like you're constantly being forced down this one way. So that kind of linear I don't like, but I do like linear that gives you the feeling that you're exploring on your own.
What do you think about that, Squishy?
It really depends. I was going to use Eries as an example because in the beginning, it's you don't know where to go at all. But as you get further into the hack, the path becomes more linear, but it's still all over the place. And it has that feel of the non-linearness to it.
Well, I think we're good on that one. Why don't we drop down to Smile source code being released?
I personally think at the rate Smile is not being updated, I think this is a really good idea.
I'm sure it'll get confusing in the future with people having their own versions of it and all. That's really, it's just more of a reason to get to know the game more so you can know what this version's doing to it that it shouldn't or whatnot. I mean, I think Jam already released his own Smile.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that didn't take long, and Sizer's been picking at it on her own before the release, but nonetheless.
It's something that gives me a bit of hope in the future towards actually getting a music editor integrated with actual hacking program. With the state of music editing as it is now in Notepad, it takes me, even if I know all the notes of a song, even if it's just a short and simple song, it still takes 2 hours or so just to get a very short, simple loop done right, because it's very, you have to go in and every single time you want to adjust the reverb level or panning or whatnot, you have to go through this huge process of making your changes in a notepad, saving it, then applying it to the ROM. And I'd much rather have something that's integrated where you can just do something in QuickMet.
Jaffe isn't the only programmer either. You got other people like Silver Scree's brother, Black Falcon, Sizer, Jam.
The only downside I could see is if sometime in the future, if all of these people who can work with the code actually build in their own features, and they all have a feature you like, but they're all in a separate Smile. That I could see.
I mean, Smile does have a built-in plugin feature, doesn't it?
I think he was working on that or just got it done but never actually made any plugins or anything for it.
Yeah.
If we could get the basis of Smile working and everything, like a general community consensus as to what should be in it, then everybody can start writing for the plugin manager, and we could go from there.
Yeah. I'm just really hoping that eventually we'll get all these ideas, because a lot of people had ideas for Smile. So I'm hoping sometime we'll get sort of a super Smile that will pretty much handle everything.
So you're hoping that Smile gets to be more like Lunar Magic, the Super Mario World program that has all sort of stuff in it?
Does anyone else have anything to say on that?
Yeah, no, I don't.
A shout out to Interdepth and him not ever finishing Cheesy.
It was a good effort.
All right, well, will hacks ever be better than the original Super Metroid?
I think the first thing would ask would be, what do you consider better?
It's subjective because, I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who already think such and such is better than the original. But I guess as a generalized standard for, even outsiders checking it out for the first time, yeah, I could see that happening. I mean, once all the original quirks are finally understood and fixed up and you get these hacks that are pretty much like something that came from Nintendo.
Yeah, I guess my thought on that was, Super Metroid's a fun game, first of all, and it has so many different possibilities of, if you know all the little tricks like wall jumping and bomb jump and all that, if you know all those, you can do the game 1,000 different ways. Because I know I would never have made Super Metroid the way it is with what I know. I'd be like, no, I don't want them getting supers early. It's kind of a hacker mentality to make it so different or more difficult so they can't do some things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of maybe takes away the fun of exploring and trying to figure stuff out a little bit away from hacks.
It's impossible not to consider if somebody skips this ahead of time, but,
Yeah.
What if they do? I think it's more trying to make it to where it doesn't look like they should be able to, but they end up doing it anyway, so it's like, ooh, am I in a forbidden zone right now or not?
Yeah.
Keeping that there. If as the player you can't really tell if you're actually supposed to be there or not, or if it was considered ahead of time.
I've been working with some ideas of getting items earlier than you're supposed to, but it's really difficult to do. So, but if people explore and they know how to sequence break and stuff, they can get it. I like messing around with that a little bit.
Yeah.
You're looking into basically high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would also just recommend for anybody who has something like that to make sure you know how save stations work and implement them.
Oh yes, please. That's okay. Well, nobody noted this in the list, but please make it so hacks don't have to be used with safe states.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's nothing wrong with save states. You're probably playing it on an emulator anyway, but I'd prefer to be able to actually have the save station.
That adds to the, I guess, authentic feel of this. If you have, you can actually play and save, like on a console and all. You don't have that one room that kills you every time because it's stupidly hard spike jumps or whatever to do.
Remember, not everybody plays with save states, people.
Like if I were playing as a kid, like any of these hacks, you could think of Limit as being Super Metroid, what they released. If that were the game, like Limit was Super Metroid, and I played as a kid, I would have given up. And so using that metric, I think there's a couple hacks that I think I would have gotten into just as much as Super Metroid, and that's it. Most of the others, even Eris, I think probably as a kid I would have quit.
Yeah, it's a little hard.
I would have been too afraid to keep playing Eris.
I mean, Eris is worse than Fusion. Everything looks so much creepier. But yeah, that's the metric I use to measure whether it'll be better. So I think, there's a couple hacks I think are better than the original. Although they do have bugs that would be taken out in like a official release. But I do think that there are hacks that are better than the original.
That's something else to bring up, is that there's always in there somewhere a bug or a few in the hack somewhere, just because you don't have this team of testers, you don't have 50 people working on the game. You pretty much have one main person working on it and then maybe some testers and some side help besides that. And so there's nothing like nearly as polished as Super Metroid was.
One thing that really does annoy me now, I mean, I did it terribly in like Angry Fire Chozo, the original. It's when you go through a door and then you have the colors that don't fade being used in the tile set, so you see all that junk as the tile set and it scrolls by and it just looks ugly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the bugs I think people should start looking into fixing. I mean, I have a patch that makes all the colors fade, so that takes care of it right there. But if you don't want to do that, then I think you need to set up your tile set so you aren't using those colors that don't fade.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on to the next topic, I just want to say how I would gauge something better than Super Metroid is. I guess I look for more replayability value. That's just who I am. Like, I can constantly play Smash Bros. Melee or Metroid Prime over and over because just, like you said earlier, MST, there's 1,000 different ways you can play Super Metroid just because of how it's set up. So.
Yeah. All right, DSO. I guess you wanted to discuss your stuff.
Floor's all yours, bro.
All right, so who wants to take a stab at how many hacks I'm working on or have worked on?
I'm going to
Said
say
not as many as
5.
me.
I'm going to say 5.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Squishy says 7.
I'll guess 3.
I'm not guessing.
Well, if you count what's just mine and not including, me helping out with Fear and whatnot, see, I've got 2 other games that I'm hacking, one of which is a Super Mario RPG And then for Super Metroid itself, there's 3 that I'm working on.
Uh-huh.
There's 4. So that makes a total of 6 hacks. So I guess it's tied between Grime and Squishy.
That's just too much for me. That's why I never release anything.
But I've got 2 that are, one of them is a boss rush, where you only have a few rooms, then you have a boss, then you go a few more rooms, another boss. Yes, you will hate Spore Spawn it, I will say that.
There is no doubt of that.
And then other hack I have is not, I guess you could call it a mini hack if you call Eris a mini hack. I don't think it's going to get Eris sized, but it's going to be a good enough length. I think it might take people 2 or 3 hours on their first playthrough, but it's like a manhunt. You're Samus on a mission to exterminate pirates that have taken over a Galactic Federation ship. And it's like Metroid 2 where you have the Metroid counter. You have to kill the Metroids before you can go to the Queen. Basically, there's space pirates hidden all throughout the spaceship, and they knew Samus was coming. So the whole idea of the hack is the space pirates booby-trapped all that they could, and then they hid. So you have to go and find them and kill them all while not getting killed by all the booby traps. It's basically my hack for experimenting with doing different things with enemies. So that was the rationale I came up with for why you have enemies in all these weird positions. The space pirates trying to figure out how to stop you.
Not a bad idea.
It's shorter. You only get 7 E-tanks. There's no gravity. You only get Various Suit. I think there's like Wave and Spazer, but you don't have all the beams. So that kind of gives you an idea of the length. But there's 50 space pirates to kill throughout the ship, and you have to find them all. And most of them are hidden, like, in walls.
That sounds really fun and really frustrating at the same time. There's going to be one pirate left.
You'll be
right.
searching everywhere.
Like that one missile tank left, whatever you're playing.
Well, let's see, the other 2 Metroid hacks are, I mean, I imagine all of you or most of you have played the demo for Event Horizon.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's one of them that's still receiving work from time to time, but it's more in the background than the others, I'd say, because I got myself to a point with it where it felt like difficult to figure out how I was going to continue with the story, but it actually got easier as I worked on the second Angry Fire Chozo, because the whole Fear Angry Fire Chozo and Event Horizon being linked in story, doing Angry Fire Chozo 2 has kind of helped me figure out where Event Horizon is going to go. But obviously the main hack that I'm working on, the big one, is Angry Fire Chozo 2. And as far as size, it's big as redesign and redesign half again.
Oh boy.
Which is ridiculous.
Are you using the same style of level design you used for Angry Fire Chozo 1?
It's going to have, I'd say, on average, a higher level of detail than Angry Fire Chozo, but I don't think it's going to have those random rooms that are super Eris-like. But because it is so big, I'm also throwing in a lot of new items that people haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I'm expecting it to be a 10-hour playthrough at least.
As long as the mechanics are good.
I think that pretty much covers the basics for Metroid stuff.
Then why don't we move on to what makes certain hacks stand out, or how do you consider what makes a good hack?
We already talked.
Go.
Assembly is obviously one thing,
Spikes.
but it depends on what you do with it.
Now let's say it simply isn't the be-all and end-all, because like searching for items is still my favorite hack. You just collect stuff.
Yeah, just like a vacation, right?
I really liked the way Volta felt when I was playing it.
Yeah, Volta's a good one.
There was something about Volta that just, it flowed very
Yeah.
well.
Well, I like any hack that can use the original tiles in a way that feels like it's something that the developers made but they never released.
Sure, you're not hating on custom graphics or anything. I can't do custom graphics, but I have no problem with them.
I mean, you even think, like, I don't know, I guess everybody tries to get all super detailed with them, which you really don't have to for something to look good. Like Ice Metal, I mean, for as different as it looked, I mean, that hack was fun as hell. I loved it,
Yeah.
you know. It was good gameplay, and it fit the style of what was going on. You know, it wasn't just Super Metroid with goofy graphics, you know, the level design reflected the goofy graphics, and it was just all around good fun.
And along those lines, I mean, you could compare Eris, which looks good in its own way. Maybe not. Some people may disagree with some palettes, but it's still, the tile work is still really good on that.
I can appreciate Eris because that's how he wanted the colors to look. It wasn't really just throwing colors on me. Those are the colors he wanted for. That was his vision.
Well, another thing that I like is, I don't know how, it's just polish.
Yes, something untested is not generally fun to play, unless you're testing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, I guess, many different ways you could consider a hack good, too, because a lot of hacks are different, varying difficulty levels, you have different level design choices versus different item progressions. And so there's still some hacks that are completely opposite. You can still consider each one good.
Yeah, like there was one like Super Metroid TAS edition or something where you have like 15 seconds to get out of the Sarah station, and it's pretty much you have to be frame by frame tool assisted precision to beat it.
Yeah.
While it's just the vanilla Metroid with stuff moved around or whatever to make it harder, you still have to appreciate that somebody was considering every frame of the run through when they were doing it. So while 99.9% of people can't play it, it doesn't mean that it isn't well made.
Yeah, because it still took a lot of thought to go into that.
At least it was well tested.
That hack was made in slow motion.
Okay. All right. Well, will a hack ever be looked forward to as much as Aegis?
Nope, probably
It's
not.
almost done now.
Yeah, it is.
It's not like he's completely disappeared off the internet, because I've seen him on places like TAS videos. It's just like he doesn't seem to have the interest in Metroid anymore.
Well, I think that jumps right into the next topic, other people's hacks on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, well, the whole idea, what I was talking about this, was more of, like, what hacks are you looking forward to the most?
Hard to say. Forget his name. He made a topic asking about like the redesign gates.
Oh, yeah.
Was it that French guy you're talking about?
I think it was.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of hard because there's not that many.
Yeah.
I mean, Phazon
Yeah.
Hack keeps getting a bunch of revisions. But I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm sure if I had been working on Super Metroid Prime a lot more, that'd be one thing to talk about. But that's pretty dormant right now.
I will say that I kind of looking forward to what Black Falcon's working on. He showed me some stuff, and it's looking really good.
Another hack that I've been looking forward to is what Sizer's working on.
All Seraphim. There's not really that much that we know of that's being worked on. I will say, though, that Big Domino's hack, it's something that I guess was kind of out of the blue.
I love it when a new hack drops out of the blue, like, hey, check this out. I just
And
made
it
this.
actually has content.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like
that's a good one.
new ideas and whatnot in it. Like, holy crap, where
Yeah.
did this come from? It didn't come from us.
That's actually something that's not bad to talk about. How much we actually know about the Japanese hacking community.
Yeah, I can remember going on, like, the Japanese sites and just using Google Translate to see. They'd load up a video of Super Metroid Aris, and it's like the one where Samus is just walking and the background scrolls faster than the foreground. And then they just ask, how do you do this? And I think most of those questions were actually asked by the guy who made Super Zero Mission. I mean, I'm not sure if Super Zero Mission, how much of it was just one guy and how much of it was a team. It seems like one guy was asking a lot of the questions, but there were several people who had the knowledge to be able to answer things like how we actually did that thing in Aris.
Actually, I think that may be a good thing to bring into the last one I brought up about mistakes for people who are just starting out to avoid, because there's a lot of things you can do. Generally, when I started, I was thinking, well, first of all, it's going to be a boss rush, which didn't happen, but I was thinking, it's going to be super difficult and all this. Now that I've gone further, I'm like, I really don't want it to be that difficult.
It started off with super hard hacks.
I do like the trend of hacks becoming easier.
Another good one would be is that if you're going to post your hack on the forums, aside from making sure you have content in your topic, take your time before you post the topic.
Actually, kind of a relation between where studies have shown, like, the more you talk about something, it means the less that you're actually working on it.
That makes sense. It's like you want people to know, but at the same time you don't. You want to like pull them towards you to say like, hey, you want to check this out.
Another mistake that can be made, even if you're not really a noob, but with all the new stuff that's coming out, it's available with ASM and patches, a lot of times people will start something, but they won't have everything in the ROM yet.
Well, that and make sure your assembly files aren't writing to the same place. I did that a lot. It took me way longer to learn than it should have, but if you're going to apply an IPS of any kind, make a freaking backup.
That is something that has to be said. Make backups all the time.
And another good idea would be to make the backup as an IPS.
Yeah, if you're looking to save space.
Email it, put it on Dropbox, store it on another computer, put it on your flash drive. Heck, someone recently had a problem in one of their hacks. I think it was Super Metroid New Zebus, or it was Eternity. I think it was Eternity. He lost all his work, and that's just a bummer.
And especially if you're starting out, you probably will come across something that will break your hack somehow. So
Yep. The first time I hacked, I broke my ROM the second room into the game. I don't need these scrolls. I'll just color them all in blue. And even though there were some that didn't have scrolls in them and stuff.
The first time I did it, I caused Smile to think the ROM was PAL. Back then, I didn't know how to fix or anything.
My first breaking would have been adding PLMs and enemies without repointing. That's a
My
common.
first would actually be repointing the tile data in the room. I did something somewhere, and like whole bank was messed up.
When you're repointing stuff with the hex editor, make sure you overwrite the bytes and not insert them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of pitfalls when you're starting out that you kind of get the hang of not to do. So make backups. Quickly, what's everyone's favorite tile set?
Rocky Meridia.
Red Brinstar, I'd have to say.
Meridia.
I have to say Norfair because there's so much variety.
I would say Norfair just because of the bubbles. Okay. What about everyone's favorite music?
I'm still gonna go the Rocky Meridia.
I'm still gonna have to say Red Brinstar.
I like both the Meridia tracks, honestly.
I'm going to go with Green Brinstar.
I have a hard time deciding whether I like the Rocky Meridia or the Red Brinstar. So it's between those two for me. Because I like both those.
Red Brinstar.
How about the more fun part of making a hack?
If you do ASM, I think that something ASM related will be the most boring part. If you don't, then you'll say something else.
Yeah, I don't do ASM, so I'm gonna say anything involving graphics usually bores me.
Oh.
Working with the graphics editor is my most boring part. I hate that.
Getting the size and the PLM and enemies and population palette pointers and all that set up because it's something I've already done a bunch of times before, so it's not like I'm going to get some awesome new result out of it. It's just busy work I got to do.
I would agree with that, too.
I'd say there's only one thing I find more tedious than music, and that is inserting room names.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Closing statements here.
Yeah, that'd be good to do. I would say, again, make backups because you can't hammer that point home enough.
I already know what Grime's statement is gonna be, and it's gonna be more spikes.
Now I don't know what to say because you just said it.
Oh, no.
I'm just going to say drink more beer, then I'll just default to that.
As person can attest to, alcohol helps.
Helps you party.
I guess mine would be just take your time, no big rush, but try not to be too lazy about it.
Don't rush yourself.
If I were to make a closing statement, it would possibly be I'm DSO and don't ask me for music unless you're someone I already know.
Come to think of it, I got about 100 songs I wouldn't mind hearing on the SPC.
I'm sure I'll start charging you money.
What about you, Squishy?
I haven't really got a whole lot of hacking done lately. I feel kind of bad about it, but I don't know if I will. It's open in the future. Who knows? And see you kiddies next time.
Yep.
All right, so
I
everyone have a
think
good
that'll do it for the first MetConst podcast, so I guess whenever we get around to doing it again.